Hi, I'm Laura Parker. I'm the author and illustrator of Bowerbird Blues, and I'm looking forward to sharing this story with you for National Simultaneous Storytime in 2024. And today I thought I would share with you a little bit of the process that went into making the book, particularly the artwork, but also the writing. So I really enjoy my work. I really have a lot of fun, and I hope that shines through in all the things that I'm going to tell you. My illustrations are created in watercolor, so it's probably the same paints as you guys have. Watercolor, I've got like really tiny little, whoops, can you see? Really tiny, I've made it look big, really tiny brushes. And I also use a little bit of colored pencil over the top, and I also do a bit of digital. So when you look at the pictures, I probably painted the bird, but I might have done the eye over the top in Photoshop, some of the backgrounds, and that pattern on the wing, that's also created in Photoshop. I'm still drawing it, it's not AI, it's me drawing with my brain and my stylus pen. And I think it's really important, especially in the age of AI, to see all the versions that an artist does that goes into making a book, because there's quite a lot of process work that goes into sorting out those pictures. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about that. The story is based on a real bird, the satin bowerbird, which is the most beautiful colour. It's got almost like a blue-black kind of sheen, and it's different in different lights. So with my bird, I've definitely taken a few stylistic liberties with the shape of its head, and I've simplified its beak and, you know, changed the colour of its feet. So that's all intentional. I wanted it to look kind of distinctive. It's a very distinctive bird anyway, and they're so weird and so wonderful the way they collect blue to decorate their bowers. It really is extremely fascinating. I'm very inspired by nature, our surroundings, very passionate about our environment. I'm also inspired by my family, and the ideas are everywhere. So I love encouraging kids to write and to draw as well. The end papers of my book, so that is the end paper, which is sticking the bound book to the cover. I like putting little search and finds into my stories, and with this particular story, the search and find really connects with the theme of the book as well. Same with my first book, Twig. That was the first one that I did, the look and find. So she's camouflaged and you have to find her on each page. So this one kind of works as well for that. It kind of extends the story using that space before the story actually starts. And that just tells you what you can find. It's like a little Where's Wally. You can go and find all the little things and spend a bit of time with the book. I just want to say, make sure you look at the book in print. It's designed to be, it sounds kind of obvious, but it's designed to be in print where you can turn the pages. So it's great we can look at it on screen, but please do look at it how it's intended to be on the paper. I also want to say there's a whole team of people who work on a book as well. So my publisher, Rebecca Young, and Hannah Jansen, book designer, has a hand in the cover and making it all pretty. So there's a lot of people to say thank you to that help it on its way. The book starts off as a manuscript. So this is a manuscript of Bowerbird Blues. It was about 350 words long, which isn't very long. And before I sat down to write it, I really had the idea in my head. I knew that the bird would fall in love with the sea, would fall in love with the sky, and I knew the ending. So I didn't just sit down and sort of stare at the screen and type it up. It wasn't really like that. It kind of was written quite quickly compared to some of my other books. And I really love finding the right word. Like I really love searching for those sounds that go together, and reading them aloud as well really helped, because a lot of my readers, they can't read the book themselves yet. They have to be read too. So it's important that the book sounds good when you read it. You're not just reading it in your head. And I really love finding the right word, like finding the right bird word and the alliterations, those sounds that go together. And when I'm working on the writing, some words just feel right and they fall into place, and I keep going over it. I'm sort of reading it over and over until I've sort of fixed all those little things that stand out. And yeah, it's funny how it kind of all eventually will fall into place. This version, I can see I've put little page breaks for what I wanted to go on each page. And when I'm writing it, I'm kind of imagining what would go on each page while I'm actually writing it. I wanted the page with all the grey fluttering, fidgeting in all this grey. I actually wanted that originally to be a page with no writing. I thought it would have quite a lot of impact if you just got there and there was no text at all and you're just sort of in the grey. But I couldn't fit it because I need to only have 32 pages, so I had to have the writing on there. But I've put him as my little birdo down there in the corner. And his posture, he looks sort of all curled up. He looks quite sad and lonely, and I've made him small on that page. So there's lots of space around him, that grey kind of wasteland that's all grainy. And his little footsteps that are going around and here and there and everywhere gives a sense of like the time passing. So it's the kind of thing that I'm thinking about when I'm planning what the pictures will be. I do thumbnails, and I think it's really important to show kids the rough stuff because they have to understand that not everything starts out perfect, and there's a whole process that it has to go through, and it has to sort of start off rough, and you know, you have to get those first words on the page. These are some little thumbnails where I'm not worrying about, you know, being a perfectionist and just sort of, you know, jotting down some ideas. And I can actually remember my high school art teacher telling me to do thumbnails, and sometimes I didn't. I would just race ahead and end up with this really developed thing, and then there'd be a problem and have to go back and start it all again. So Mrs. Anderson, you were right. I now do thumbnail drawings. So yes, this one too is another rough. So I'm just starting out where it's quite loose, and after doing a few versions, things will kind of fall into place, I guess, or they'll feel like that goes there or that goes there. You just sort of listen to where the things want to go to, and after a few versions, it will get more developed. And when I was working on the colour for this book, I decided to ask Bruce Watley if he would help me out with some mentoring. He's really amazingly talented, and it was a real privilege to get his professional opinion on some of my artwork. So he's done loads of books like Diary of a Wombat, his own book Reuben, and so many others. So he's got that kind of trained eye that if you show him the artwork, he kind of knew just what to say that would be helpful. When I was working on my bird character, I wasn't happy with my original birds, and I wasn't able to get the digital part to look like the watercolor part, and then the watercolor part was looking maybe a bit too random. And this is kind of a little before and after the mentoring. The one on the left is before the mentoring. See, the bird just looks sort of smooth or a bit too, I don't know, almost looks like a fish, like just not quite right. And then the one on the right is after sort of talking to Bruce, and he suggested I fix up some of my Photoshop brushes, and I started to sort of stamp it on, and it just gives that real grainy kind of depth to the artwork that I wasn't really getting. So thank you, Bruce, for your time. This is just wanted to show you, this is the actual painting. So, you know, I've scanned that in and worked on it. So that's how it ends up being a mixture of the traditional and the digital, and how I've tried to kind of make that seamlessly meld up so you can't tell what's what. I can still tell, but the stuff that you do by hand has a real charm to it, almost like a real randomness to it. So yeah, trying to get the right balance. So lots of fun. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you for story time. See you later.